While everyone was making basic moves, you were strategizing like a grandmaster. The haters watched in disbelief as you flipped the script and dominated the very game they thought they owned. They came with checkers energy, simple, predictable, amateur, but you showed up with chess brilliance. You studied their patterns while they were busy running their mouths. You calculated risks while they celebrated too early. And when the moment came to strike, you moved with such precision that they couldn't even comprehend what had happened until you were already celebrating the win. That's the difference between a player and a boss. They play checkers. You mastered chess, and now they all know exactly who runs this game. They thought they had you figured out. They looked at you and saw someone they could manipulate, someone they could control, someone too soft to play the game at their level. They mistook your silence for weakness, your patience for hesitation. But what they failed to realize was that you weren't just playing along. You were watching, studying, preparing. They saw an easy target, but in reality, you were the biggest threat they had ever encountered. You let them believe they had the upper hand. You smiled when they underestimated you, nodded when they dismissed you, and stayed quiet when they bragged about their so-called victories. They thought they were outsmarting you, but in truth, you were letting them expose their own weaknesses. Every insult, every underhanded move, every attempt to discredit you was another piece of evidence you collected. You weren't just sitting there, you were learning exactly how they moved. The problem with people who think they're untouchable is that they stop paying attention. They become comfortable in their delusions, assuming that because you haven't fought back, you never will. But you moved in silence. While they were too busy celebrating premature victories, you were plotting your real ones. They thought you were weak because you didn't react. They thought you were afraid because you didn't engage. They thought they had won because you didn't fight on their level. But that's exactly what you wanted them to believe. While they wasted time gossiping, plotting, and competing against a version of you that no longer existed, you were building something solid. You weren't trying to prove yourself to them. You weren't chasing their approval. You were focused on the bigger picture, on moves that actually mattered. They were playing checkers. Fast, reckless, emotional. But you were playing chess, calculated, precise, unshakable. They spent so much time trying to tear you down that they didn't realize they were the ones standing on shaky ground. They set traps for you, but you never even walked into them. They spoke your name, hoping to tarnish your reputation, but all they did was make you more powerful. And when they finally realized that you weren't the person they thought you were, it was already over. See, you never needed their validation. You never needed to play by their rules. You let them think they were in control. But in reality, they were just moving exactly how you expected them to. And when you finally made your move, checkmate. They thought you were an easy target. They were wrong. They were watching, waiting, convinced they had tabs on your every move. They thought they knew where you'd go next, how you'd respond, and when you'd break. But then, silence. You disappeared, not in defeat, but in mastery. You didn't just move in silence. You became an illusion. While they were busy feeding off your energy, you took it all back. You stopped showing up where they expected you. You became unpredictable, untraceable. And that's when they started to panic. See, the game changes when they can't track you, when you remove access, when you refuse to engage, when you stop feeding their egos. They lose control. They built their entire strategy around your reactions, around your presence, around being able to monitor your every step. But you made the ultimate power move. You disappeared from their reach. No explanations, no warnings, just gone. At first, they assumed you were struggling. They convinced themselves you had lost, that you were hiding out of shame, that their little games had finally broken you. But that's the thing about people who operate from insecurity. They always Assume silence means weakness. They thought you had nothing left when in reality you were building everything they couldn't see. You mastered the art of being unavailable. No more predictable responses, no more defending yourself, no more giving away your next move. And when they realized they had no access to you, that's when the paranoia set in. They checked your pages, but you weren't posting. They asked about you, but no one knew what you were up to. The same people who once dismissed you now spent their days searching for signs of your downfall. But there were none, because you weren't losing, you were leveling up. The ghost move changed the entire board. By the time they finally heard your name again, you weren't where they left you. You weren't even in the same league anymore. They wasted time tracking your steps while you were miles ahead, moving in silence, stacking your wins and positioning yourself for something bigger. That's what separates you from them. They play small. They need validation. They need an audience. But you understand that real power doesn't need to announce itself. Real power doesn't chase approval. Real power moves undetected until it's too late. They thought they could keep up. They thought they had control, but they lost the moment you disappeared, and now they can't even find you. They had a system, a routine they relied on. They fed off your reactions, counted on your responses, and needed your energy to fuel their egos. Every time they provoked you, they expected you to engage. Every time they threw shade, they waited for your comeback. But then you stopped. No more reactions, no more explanations, no more access. And just like that, their entire game collapsed. They weren't prepared for the silence. They expected you to fight, to defend, to prove yourself. But you let them talk while you worked. You let them assume while you strategized. You let them waste their breath while you elevated. And the moment you stopped playing their game, they lost control of the board. At first they laughed. They told themselves you had given up. They convinced themselves you were irrelevant without their name in your mouth. But as time passed and you remained silent, the confidence started to crack. They started wondering what you were up to. They started checking for signs of failure, expecting to see you struggle, but instead, all they found was mystery. And nothing makes an insecure person more paranoid than what they can't figure out. The less they knew, the more they obsessed. They started reaching in ways they never had before, digging for information, sending indirect messages, trying to force a reaction out of you. They used to believe they were in control, but now they were spending their time chasing shadows, desperate for proof that they still mattered. And that's the beauty of moving in silence. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop justifying your choices, when you stop reacting altogether, you become an enigma. They can't read you. They can't predict you. They can't control you. And that terrifies them. See, they built their identity around your responses. They thrived on your emotions. They relied on your energy. But the moment you chose yourself, the moment you walked away and focused inward, they had nothing left to feed on. And that's when it hit them. You were never the weak one. You were the source. Their obsession became their downfall. While they were still watching, still waiting, still hoping for a moment of weakness, you kept moving forward. You kept winning. You kept growing. And now, they're stuck in the past, replaying old battles while you create a future so far ahead, they'll never catch up. They panicked because they realized too late. You were never just another player in their game. You were the one running the whole board. They thought they had it all figured out. They built their plans around your past, convinced they could use your mistakes against you. They whispered your name in rooms you hadn't even entered, hoping to taint your reputation before you arrived. They set traps, thinking you'd walk right into them. But what they failed to realize was that while they were busy plotting against you, you were already rewriting the script, every misstep they thought they could expose. You had already turned it into a lesson. Every rumor they spread, you let. It ran its course, knowing the truth would outlive the lies. They were so focused on dragging you down that they didn't realize you had stopped playing their game entirely. That's the thing about people who rely on manipulation. They assume everyone else operates the same way. They expect you to react emotionally, to fight for validation, to prove them wrong. But you didn't waste your breath. You let them dig their own graves while you built your empire. They tried to set you up, but you never took the bait. They waited for your downfall, only to watch you rise even higher. And when they finally realized their tactics weren't working, they scrambled, trying to adjust, trying to find new ways to come for you. But by then, it was already over. They were so busy playing against you that they never stopped to check their own position. They overextended, underestimated, and played themselves right out of the game. The power they thought they had over you, gone. The influence they once held, non-existent, because you didn't fight them. You let them self-destruct. And the final move. You walked away untouchable. You didn't need to argue, didn't need to prove a point. You let the silence speak for itself. You let your success do the talking. And now they have no choice but to sit with their losses. While you keep stacking wins, they thought they had you trapped, they thought they had control. But in the end, they were the ones who got played. Checkmate. They thought they had more time. They thought you'd always be within reach, always reacting, always engaging. But while they were focused on small battles, you were securing the entire war. You didn't just win, you evolved. And now they're left scrambling, trying to figure out how they lost control of a game they thought they owned. You never had to stop to their level. You never had to meet them in the gutter where they tried to drag you. You played your game, on your terms, with your own rules. And that's why they never stood a chance. They were too emotional, too desperate to see you fail, too blind to realize you had already moved on to bigger things. They say the truth will set you free, but most can't handle it. For the chosen ones in the Obsidian Inner Order, it's not just the truth, it's the whole. Cosmic download, no sugarcoating, no escape. Picture this, weekly group calls with 450 plus chosen ones, recorded and available anytime for your enlightenment. Our private Discord, it's not just active, it's alive, buzzing with ideas, breakthroughs, and that unstoppable chosen energy. Oh, and for you romantics out there, welcome to Chosen Singles, where soulmates meet under cosmic alignments, not cheap pickup lines. And for the seekers, dive into modern manifestation mechanics, our exclusive grimoire, with 3 chapters available to members. Learn how to turn your home into an abundance magnet, master basic spellcraft for physical manifestation, and channel magical forces to elevate your goals. Plus, you'll get access to interviews with real targeted individuals and video specials so bold, the YouTube archons don't even want you to see them. This is more than a membership, it's a movement. So what are you waiting for? Stop searching, start ascending. The link is in the description. Now, the tables have turned. The same people who once laughed at you, dismissed you, doubted you, they're the ones on the outside looking in. They whisper your name, but not with mockery, with confusion, with disbelief, with regret. They watch from a distance, trying to figure out how you did it, trying to understand how you became untouchable. They expected you to fail. They expected you to come crawling back, but instead you leveled up so high that they can't even reach you. And that's what hurts them the most. Not your success itself, but the fact that they have no part in it. No revenge was needed, no petty clapbacks, just pure, undeniable elevation. Because nothing wounds a hater more than seeing you thrive in a reality they swore would never happen for you. They wanted a reaction. They wanted to see you break. Instead, they got silence, success, and the harsh truth that they were never a threat to begin with. They laughed at you once, loudly, publicly. They mocked your ambition, rolled their eyes at your dreams, and swore up and down that you'd never be anything without their approval. They wrote you off before you even had a chance to prove yourself. But now they're the ones doing the most, putting on a full-blown performance just to get a second of your attention. See, when you were still within their reach, they had the luxury of pretending you didn't matter. As long as you were struggling, as long as you were playing small, they could convince themselves that you were beneath them. But once you elevated, once you moved past them, past their expectations, past everything they thought they knew about you, that's when the switch flipped. That's when the desperation kicked in. They thought you'd beg to be included. They swore you'd regret walking away. They were so certain that you couldn't thrive without them that they never even considered what would happen if you did. And now, they can't make sense of it. They're scrambling, searching for ways to reconnect, hoping you'll look their way, even just for a second. Their group chats turned into fan clubs. The same voices that once gossiped about you now whisper your name with curiosity, with fascination, with a touch of jealousy they can't even hide. They dissect your every move, analyze your strategy, and try to figure out how you pulled it off. How did the person they once dismissed become the one they now secretly admire? They watch from the sidelines, hoping you'll acknowledge them. They drop hints, test the waters, try to ease their way back into your life. But you see them for exactly what they are. Opportunists, scrambling to stay relevant in a story that no longer includes them. And the irony, you don't even care. Their obsession, their sudden admiration, it doesn't affect you. You don't need their applause. You don't need their validation. They had their chance to stand beside you, and they chose to doubt you instead. That's on them. Now you're the main event. They're just spectators. Let them watch. Let them speculate. Let them gossip. The show must go on, with or without them. Because at the end of the day, they're not laughing anymore. And you don't even hear them. You didn't have to argue. You didn't have to defend yourself. You didn't even have to clap back. All you had to do was grow, and that alone exposed every weakness they tried to hide. Your elevation forced them to confront the truth they spent years running from. They weren't as powerful as they pretended to be. They weren't as secure as they claimed. They weren't even ahead of you to begin with. See, they built their confidence on tearing you down. Their entire identity revolved around keeping you in a position where they could feel superior. As long as you were doubting yourself, as long as you were explaining yourself, as long as you were reacting to their nonsense, they felt like they had control. But the moment you stopped, the moment you grew beyond them, that's when the panic set in, because they needed you more than you ever needed them. That's the part they never saw coming. Without you as their target, without you as their distraction, they had to face themselves, and what they saw wasn't pretty. No direction, no real growth, just years of wasted time plotting against someone who was never even competing with them in the first place. Now they're playing catch-up, scrambling to keep up appearances, pretending they've been evolving too, when the truth is, they're stuck exactly where they were. While they were watching your every move, you were making the next one. While they were spreading rumors, you were stacking wins. While they were focused on you, you were focused on leveling up. And that's why they'll never reach you. They thought they could outplay you, but they were never playing the same game. They were reckless, emotional, impulsive, thinking short-term, obsessed with quick wins. But you moved with precision. You played the long game. They celebrated meaningless victories, but you built something they could never touch. Now, the gap between you and them is too wide to cross. And here's what you realized. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people will only show up when the feast is ready, but they were never there to help build. They never supported you, never contributed, never believed in you. And those people, they don't get access anymore. You protect your energy now, you move accordingly, and you let your success be the only response they'll ever get. They wanted to see you fail. Instead, they had to watch you succeed. And in doing so, they had to face the one thing they weren't ready for, the truth. It was never you who was lacking. It was always them. They swore they were better than you. Loudly, boldly, with full confidence that you would never amount to anything without them. They laughed at your efforts, dismissed your progress, and made it their mission to remind you at every turn that you weren't on their level. But now they're copying you, now they're taking notes. Now they're studying your blueprint, desperately trying to figure out how you became everything they swore you couldn't be. That's the thing about people who move out of ego. They're so focused on proving their superiority that they never prepare for the day when the person they look down on rises above them. They never thought the tables would turn. They never imagined they'd be the ones on the outside looking in. And now, they're left chasing a version of success they once mocked. They thought they could dismiss you, erase you, make you doubt yourself, but all they really did was push you to become unstoppable. Every obstacle they threw your way, you turned into an opportunity. Every insult became fuel. Every attempt to break you only made you more resilient. And now, they wish they had your mindset. They wish they had your discipline. They wish they had your ability to turn nothing into something. Because no matter how hard they try to copy you, they'll never be able to replicate what comes naturally to you. That's the real lesson they had to learn. Success isn't about tricks, shortcuts, or appearances. It's about the mentality, the strategy, the relentless work that goes on behind the scenes. And that's why they'll never catch up. By the time they understand your last move, you've already executed the next 3. They should have played smarter, not harder, but that's not something you can teach. That's something they had to learn the hard way. You hold the power now. They don't control the narrative anymore. You do. Every lie they told, every rumor they spread, every attempt they made to keep you down has been drowned out by the sound of your success. You don't even have to speak on it. Your growth says everything for you. No more looking back. You're too focused on your future to waste energy on people who try to stop you. You've outgrown their games, outpaced their competition, and outmaneuvered every move they thought would break you. They wanted to see you stuck in the past, but you've already built a future they'll never be a part of. They'll try to get back in. They'll test the waters, send messages, act like nothing ever happened. They'll pretend they always believed in you, that they always knew you had it in you, but you know the truth. You remember the doubt, the disrespect, the fake smiles, and that's why they can't come with you. Success is the best clapback. Not words, not arguments, not proving points to people who will never admit they were wrong. Just winning, just building, just becoming so untouchable that they have no choice but to respect the reality they once refused to believe. Your lesson to them? Next time, play smarter, not harder, but that's for them to figure out. You've got bigger things to do. The game is yours now.